all coincidences with real people are random. If they tell you that this is not the case, ignore them. Peter Parker has always been a hero who protected his city. But deep down, he knew that his powers were not only a gift but also a curse. One night, while patrolling the city, Peter noticed something strange. On one of Manhattan's skyscrapers, he saw a web different from his own. It was black, thick, and emitted an ominous glow. Something inside him told him that this was not just a coincidence. As Peter approached, he felt something cold penetrate his consciousness. His body began to tremble, and he realized that this was more than just a regular enemy. It was a force he couldn't resist. Suddenly, the web came to life, wrapping around him and pulling him in. He tried to break free, but his strength was useless. When the web loosened its grip, Peter realized that something had changed. He was standing on the roof of a building, but his suit was different. It was black as pitch, and he felt as though the suit was living its own life. He heard whispers in his head, as if someone else was trying to take over his mind. With each passing day, Peter felt that he was losing control of himself. His aggression was growing, and his thoughts were becoming increasingly dark. He began to feel satisfaction from the pain he inflicted on criminals. The city he once protected now seemed to him a place worthy of destruction. New York became darker, as if the city itself was reacting to the changes in Peter. People began to notice that Spider-Man was no longer the hero they knew. Instead of saving, he began to punish, and harshly. Peter could no longer stop himself. His mind was being consumed by the darkness emanating from the suit. One night, while patrolling the city, Venom appeared before him. Eddie Brock, a former enemy, looked strange. He wasn't like before. His eyes glowed red, and his smile was eerily calm. "You're becoming like me," Peter Venom said, smirking. "The darkness inside you is growing. You won't be able to stop it." Peter tried to fight, but Venom was right. Something inside him was indeed changing, something he couldn't control. In the battle with Venom, he felt that their powers were almost equal, but something in Eddie had changed. He was no longer just an enemy, he had become something more, something ancient and powerful. Peter realized that he was losing his humanity. He began seeing strange visions, a city engulfed in flames, people turning into monsters, and himself standing over their bodies. He could no longer distinguish reality from nightmares. It seemed to him that he heard voices whispering in his ear, telling him what to do. His friends began to distance themselves from him. Mary Jane and Aunt May noticed that something was wrong with him. He was no longer the Peter they knew. He had become cold, ruthless. One day, Mary Jane tried to talk to him, but instead, he lashed out at her with a rage she had never seen before. Realizing what he had done, Peter was horrified. But the darkness inside him continued to grow, consuming his human emotions. When the darkness reached its peak, Peter knew that he could no longer be a hero. He had become the very thing he once hunted. One day he stood on top of a skyscraper, looking at the city that now seemed foreign to him. His enemies had united, realizing that the new Spider-Man was a threat not only to them but to the entire city. The Goblin, Dr. Octopus, the Lizard, and others came to stop him. They knew that if Peter wasn't stopped, all of New York would fall under his rule. In the battle on top of a bridge, Spider-Man fought them all, but this time he was alone. His strength was unimaginable, but it was the power of destruction, not protection. Ultimately, despite his power, the enemies managed to defeat him. But it did not bring them victory. The city, seeing that their hero had fallen, lost hope. Peter Parker had fallen, but the darkness that had consumed his soul remained. New York was no longer saved, it was consumed by chaos. The darkness that he couldn't defeat had now become a part of the city, spreading through the streets, destroying everything in its path. New York plunged into darkness. With each passing day, the streets became more chaotic. Criminals, seeing Spider-Man's fall, became even more brazen, fearing nothing. The police were powerless, and the residents began to leave their homes, trying to escape. At the place where Peter had fallen in the last battle, only his black suit remained. It became a symbol that even the greatest heroes can fall if darkness takes over their souls. Now, no one dared to touch that suit, considering it cursed. But in reality, it was not the end. In the shadows, on the roof of one of the houses, someone was watching the city. His eyes glowed red, and he waited. waited for the darkness to completely consume New York to begin a new, even more terrifying phase. This was the beginning of the end that Peter couldn't prevent.